up, y'all? ifeigle with FLOWTOX here, running in the north side of Chicago again. September 2020. Anyways, I've got the elections coming up, and it's probably, American politics is the biggest shit show it's ever been before. Can't really pay attention to it at this point. Ain't nothing gonna be done soon. Trump is just creating a police state, a fascist police state, totalitarian. Who knows how he's gonna react once he loses the election, if he'll give up the office or not. And then if he does give up the office, which I'm sure he'll scream and shout over, throw a fit. And in case he does lose that seat and Biden takes it, what the fuck else is, I mean, it'll be better. It won't be as fascist, but it'll still be as oligarchical as ever. The police state is there to crack down upon the poor and crack down upon black and brown people. And then wealthy people in power are able to use their money and their assets to take advantage of people lacking any assets or lacking any opportunity for them to rise in the economic ladder. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and everyone's all surprised that Republicans want to push through a Supreme Court nominee. But of course they do. Why wouldn't they want to? They're fascists. They want to hold us down, and they're doing a pretty damn good job at it. So I don't know why everyone's all surprised. Shit's been going on. Shit's been going on from the start. What do you think slavery was? Slavery was the exploitation of millions of people who were supposedly inferior. But that perceived inferiority only came from them living in institutions and systems that were built against them to make them fail. Failure is built in the system, and it is a trap. Anyways, fuck the American elections. I'm voting Biden, obviously. I am voting, obviously. But fuck Trump. Gotta get him out. The cognitive distortions that happen in your modern day right-wing voter, the cognitive dissonance, I should say, is just astounding. It's really hard to understand the method for the madness. Because what they believe is never held up to logic or reason. So any approach to be reasonable is instantly going to fail. Anyways, I'm angry. Probably millions of other Americans like me. We might all be angry at different things, but hey, we're angry. And maybe that's what they need from us. They need our anger. They need our despair, our fear. So I'm not really against the looting or the burning of buildings or the rejection of, I want to reject American corporate culture, because that is the modern day system in which the wealthy become wealthier and the poor become poorer. Anyways, it's hard not to worry about things on a federal level or an international level and worry about concerns across the globe or concerns in our federal government. It's hard not to be weighed down by that, but the best thing we can do is support a local culture. What we should do is be able to support and nourish everything that is local to us, our family, our friends. Make sure that basis is as happy and strong as possible. You can only do that with love. And you start with there. From yourself out to the people you know, out into your greater community, your neighborhood, your city, your state. And then maybe, after all you've taken care from the bottom up, yourself, and then you care for your family, and you care for your friends, and you care for your neighborhood, your community, and then up to your city, county, state. You have to build the basis. You have to build the base. And you can't worry about the federal government, because that is just a house of cards illusion of stability from a fractured base. A complete nation, every locality has been nearly completely destroyed. Small towns, old towns based off of the National Railway and freight. Towns built off the interstates in the 50s. Suburbs built in the 60s and the 70s. All of these localities are broken. We're given a false sense of nourishment and thrive for a period while investment is happening, but that investment can be taken away so easily. And watch what happens to those types of cities after this investment. What happens on the south and west sides of Chicago? What happens on the east side of Cleveland? And all of these forces can be very stressful, and they trigger your nervous system in ways that you can't control how you're reacting to a certain situation. And so even just your biological framework, your body and your nervous system, are somewhat out of your conscious control. And through years and years of action and supporting addiction, you unconsciously hook your addiction onto a deeper, more autonomic self that you necessarily don't have access to at all points to change. And that's why you have to start with yourself. You have to feel good yourself. You have to create good yourself. You can't suppose all the good in your life will just be given to you. It can't be. No one can give you what you need. And no one can tell you how to be happy. Only you can. And those are the hard things you gotta search if you are unhappy. That's why I think it's really important to realize that, I don't know. I mean, we all contain the greatest thing ever, and we all contain the worst thing ever. And you can either cultivate the greatest or the worst, and then you give it away. You give it away directly to your community, the people you live with, the friends you see, the coworkers you work with. So the direct cultivation of the good has to start with the source. And each and every one of us is the source. It has to be cultivated in us before we can go and create it in a wider context. And going back to what I was talking about in a previous podcast about my nicotine addiction, I felt like nicotine for the 10, 11 years that I smoked cigarettes and spliffs. I felt like nicotine had gained complete control of my nervous system, of my autonomic nervous system. There have been so many unconscious moves into it that I couldn't control it anymore. How I used smoking, when I used it, the unknown reason for why I used it. They began to control how I reacted to everyday situations and how I lived. And the metaphor I used of the marionette, except that my image is so much more morbid than a marionette. A marionette never experiences consciousness and has a portion of its free will taken away from it by addiction. But a human does. And a person knows what it is to be conscious before they're an addict. Hopefully they're not exposed to addictive forces that early in their life. So, as I smoked for 10 years, and with every cigarette I smoked, a hook and puppet line was inserted into me to draw me up. And after those 10 years, there were thousands of those metaphoric hooks, hooked straight into my nervous system, controlling how I moved. I mean, not literally, obviously, but you create a separate entity in yourself of desire that is nearly intolerable, that can't not be coped with, almost. And that was that thing that irked me, is that I'd given a portion of my free will over to a substance. and was nearly physically controlled and quite literally mentally and psychologically controlled by my addiction to nicotine. And who's to say who knows how much of those effects have, marijuana has with me as well. I could be just as addicted and psychologically controlled by marijuana at this point without knowing it either. But it seems much less malignant than tobacco. So now the question might seem to be is, well, we've revealed that by consciously smoking, we've not only come to a conscious addiction, but maybe some of us. I know people who have quit smoking cigarettes and have managed quite easily, supposedly. But for me, there's such a divide between how I related to reality and how I coped with it. And boy, how I used nicotine to cope with it and give myself space, literally concealing myself in a shroud of smoke. And I had to cope with that. Giving up smoking, had to learn how to cope in another way. I had to learn how to